What's up, Bug Doug with D&E in the Garage? There's some very exciting news coming out from Jeep right now, and it has been for the past few years. The brand is going crazy. They've been doing some really cool, exciting stuff, and there's even some news coming out from the ownership that's going to influence where the brand is going to be going in the future. And that's kind of what I want to talk about today. I get a lot of questions all the time from people asking me how I feel about who owns Jeep, or asking me just who does own Jeep, or is Jeep even an American company anymore? People know that I'm a fiercely patriotic American. I'm also fiercely loyal to Jeep, and I have submitted for your approval numerous times that Jeep is the most American car brand throughout all of history. I've got videos on it. Check the card up in the corner if you want a full history of Jeep and you want to hear me defend my position that Jeep is the most American brand of all time. That's what brings us to what I want to talk about today. I get people trying to gotcha me all the time. Oh man, don't you know Jeep isn't even owned by an American company anymore. Jeeps aren't even made in the United States anymore. Or my personal favorite, who cares where it's made? You know, the Camry's made in Georgia. So what I want to explore today is who owns Jeep? What does that mean? Where are Jeeps made? And at what level do I think all of that matters? All right, so let's dig into it. First, very brief history of the ownership succession for the Jeep brand. As I'm sure many of you know, Jeeps are first developed during World War II for use by the Allies. They were designed by a few companies, manufactured by a few companies, but in 1950, the Jeep brand is first trademarked by the Willis Overland Company. They start building Jeeps. In 1953, Henry J. Kaiser purchases the Willis Overland Company and rebrands it to the Willis Motor Company. All American so far. Willis Overland, Willis Motor Company. 1963, they rebrand again to the Kaiser Jeep Corporation. All American, built here, headquarters here, 100%. Kaiser Jeep survives under a few different names until 1970 when AMC picks it up, the American Motor Company. I obviously don't have to tell you what nationality they are. They hold on to it for 17 years until the Jeep brand is purchased by Lee Iacocca and the Chrysler Corporation. At this point, the story starts to get a little murky. Now, Chrysler, American, one of the big three, obviously. 1987, they buy it, still all American. In 1998, the Chrysler Corporation merges with Daimler-Benz, the infamous merger of equals, that boondoggle. What was really happening was Daimler was trying to take over Chrysler, and they almost did. And this is the first example of some outside influence you see in Jeep. But Chrysler is able to break off from Daimler in 2007, back under their own name, where they don't do well for very long. Within 7 years, they're filing for bankruptcy because of the collapse of the U.S. car market and the recession and their inability to build small, efficient cars. And so Fiat steps in and they actually purchase a large stake in Chrysler and they merge. And what you are left with is the company we have today, FCA, Fiat Chrysler Automobiles. Now in the beginning, this merger is a joint venture and it actually makes a ton of sense. Chrysler, as I just said, they can't make small, efficient cars that anyone would want to buy. For a short time in the 80s, they had everything on lock with the K car, but that was Lee Iacocca's genius, and he's long gone from Chrysler. They just can't do it. They were never able to do it before Lee Iacocca. They can't do it afterwards. Trucks, yes. SUVs, yes. Insane muscle cars, absolutely. Small, efficient commuter cars that are reliable that anyone wants to buy, they can't do it. They can import them from Mitsubishi. It doesn't matter. So the point is, the Fiat is able to give Chrysler that market share. That's what Fiat does. They make these tiny little European cars that fit on French and Italian streets, and yeah, they're good cars. They're whatever. They're tiny, you know. Think about the Fiat 500 and whatnot. It's kind of like a Mini Cooper. Right? Now, Fiat, I just said, makes all these tiny cars. They don't know anything about making pickup trucks and SUVs. So what they're getting from the FCA merger is Chrysler's market share in that market, everything else. It makes a ton of sense why the two would merge. Very successful company. Now, somewhere along the line, Fiat's actually able to buy out Chrysler's half. And they do it with Chrysler's money. It's a very interesting story that I'd like to cover at some point in another video. So what we're left with is who owns Jeep? Fiat Chrysler Automobiles, FCA, owns Jeep. Who controls FCA? Fiat does. So what people argue to me all the time is, well, if Fiat is controlling Jeep, it's an Italian company, right? No, that's not how I see it anyway, and I'm prepared to back up that position. Think about the auto brand Jaguar, or Jaguar, to say it in its native tongue. What do you think of? England. Jaguar is like the most British car that ever Britished, except the Mini Cooper, right? Well, from 1990 to 2008, who owns Jaguar? Ford. So was Jaguar an American company for those 18 years? No. It was a British company that happened to be owned by an American company. That's all there is to it. Let's go a step further. Volvo. What do you think of? Do you think of Shenzhen province in China? What do you think of Sweden? You think of Sweden, even though Volvo is 100% owned by a Chinese company, and not a holding company either, a Chinese automobile company. Geely, I don't know how to pronounce it, Geely. They make cars, they make their own cars in China, and they happen to own Volvo. Is Volvo a Chinese automaker? Are you driving around in a Chinese car? No, you're driving around in a Volvo. It's a Swedish car. Who cares who owns it, right? So Jeep, are you driving around in an Italian car, even though it may have some influences, especially the newer small ones? No, you're driving around in a Jeep. Who cares where the CEO lives? And here's the other thing. It's not like there's no presence of FCA in the United States. It's not like everything happens overseas and then they just sell the cars here. Detroit, there's still a Chrysler building. There's still Chrysler headquarters all over the place. And this brings us to our next point. FCA is actually doubling down to make sure that everybody knows that the Chrysler part of FCA, that's Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, is absolutely still an American car company, regardless of where the overseer happens to live. Now there's a list put out by cars.com. It's called the American Made Index. They put it out every June or July. I look forward to it every June or July. And what it does is it takes into account as many factors as it possibly can to determine what the most American made cars are. We're talking about where the raw materials come from, where the pieces are built, where the pieces are assembled, what percentage of workers come from where. Right? Now, we don't have the one for 2019 yet. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. The one for 2018, who do you think topped the list? Jeep. Which vehicle? The 2018 Jeep Cherokee was the most American-made vehicle on the entire planet. Out of all of the automakers, everybody, it had the most, it could claim the most energy and time and materials that went into it took place in the United States. Now, I will be fair, and I will round out the rest of the list. Number 2 was the Honda Odyssey. Number 3 was the Honda Ridgeline. Number 4 was the Ford Taurus. And number 5 was the Chevy Volt. Really, GM? Chevy Volt. Whatever. So, no, Jeep does not dominate the top 5, and you could argue, well, Honda has 2 in the top 5. Maybe they're the most American-made brand. I'll leave that up to you. The point is, for a car company that has a relatively narrow market segment, all Jeep does is sell SUVs. Now we're getting into smaller SUVs and soon a pickup truck's coming, but in 2018, that's all they did, 8 SUVs, and they still managed to top the list there. That's pretty impressive to me. Now, I should note, the year before, 2017, they had the number 1 and the number 2 spot. Number 1 was the Wrangler, number 2 was the Cherokee. They screwed up and sent the Wrangler to Mexico to be built for 2018, but they fixed that for 2019, and that's what I want to talk about today. All right? They have realized the error of their ways, and FCA is bringing Jeep back to the United States. The Wrangler is being made in Toledo, Ohio again. The Cherokee is still being made in Belvidere, Illinois. They are currently putting $1.6 billion into the Detroit plant that they have at Mack Avenue. The Mack Avenue plant currently builds engines for Fiat Chrysler. They're putting $1.6 billion into retooling it so that it can make Jeeps. Now, they don't know which Jeep is going to be made there. It depends on what happens with the 5th generation Grand Cherokee that's supposed to be coming next year sometime. In addition to that, they're putting $900 million into the Jefferson North plant. The Jefferson North plant is a very famous plant. That's where a ton of Jeeps were made. That's where the original ZJ was made. I can't remember what Jeep is made there right now. I want to say maybe Grand Cherokee. Now, what the plan is for these two revamped plants is to make more Jeeps in the United States. Now, they're making the Durango at the Jefferson North plant right now. So if the 5th generation Grand Cherokee ends up being put on the Durango platform, the 7-passenger Durango platform, it will probably be made alongside the Durango at the Jefferson North plant. If the 5th gen Grand Cherokee gets its own platform, it will likely be made in the newly revamped Mack Avenue plant, alongside. They're talking about also making the proposed Grand Wagoneer at the Mack Avenue plant. Whatever they're building there, it's going to be a Jeep, and it's going to be awesome. I think in Toledo, Ohio, they're also building the Gladiator alongside the Wrangler, if I'm not mistaken. Now, that is cool enough. The fact that they are putting all this money into these two plants to try to bring as many Jeep to be manufactured in the United States, that's cool enough. But that's not even the coolest part of the story. Right now, as we speak, Fiat Chrysler is working with the city of Detroit to buy up enough parcels of land and to get enough approvals to build a brand new manufacturing plant in Detroit. In Detroit. It'll be the first new manufacturing plant in Detroit in something like 30 years. 30 years. All right, we all know the story of Detroit in the past decade. It went bankrupt. It's a major city that went bankrupt. Fiat Chrysler is reinvesting in Detroit. I think that's awesome. At their new plant, I don't know what they're gonna make. Maybe they'll make what. Here's the thing about Jeep right now. There's so many proposed models. We know we're gonna get some cool stuff. Maybe it's gonna be a 2-door pickup truck called the Scrambler. Maybe it's going to be a 7-passenger Grand Cherokee. Maybe it's going to be a all-new 7-passenger on a full-frame chassis. There's a ton of things being proposed. Another thing they're proposing, and it took me a while to find this interesting, but I'm there now. They're making a plug-in hybrid electric vehicle. Jeep has promised that at some point in the next decade, they're going to build a plug-in hybrid electric vehicle, likely whatever that is. I'm guessing, I want to say it's going to be a Grand Cherokee, right? Or maybe they put it on like the Renegade, they go full real small, I don't know, but it'll likely be made at the new plant. So what are we getting at with all this? I've told you that it doesn't matter who owns Jeep, all right? And I've told you that they are made here in the United States, and I can't wait for the 2019 American Made Index to come out. I guarantee there will be a video on that. And I propose Jeep is gonna have 3 spots in the top 10. That's my bold prediction. The Wrangler's gonna be back, the Cherokee's still gonna be there. Maybe we can sneak the Grand Cherokee in? That would be cool, right? Now here's the thing, right? Here's the thing. It's difficult when you're loyal to a brand because of where it's made, especially a car company, because in today's world, that kind of nationalism doesn't really exist. In the 50s, you bought an American car because it was made in America, it was made by American hands, the parts were made by Americans, and every single cent of that stayed in the United States. If you bought a Japanese car, it was made in Japan, all the parts came from Japan. It's not like that anymore. The engine comes from God knows where, and the leadership is God knows where. But for me, Jeep is still checking all the boxes, 100%. They are doing, yeah, man, listen, they haven't owned themselves ever, really. They have a long history of being the best part of their parent company. That's why everybody wants Jeep. That's why Chrysler kept Jeep around. That's why Chrysler bought Jeep from AMC. That's probably one of the reasons why Fiat was willing to put so much money into the FCA partnership. Jeep sells like crazy. It doesn't matter what they put out there. And even their PHEV that they're coming out with, the plug-in hybrid electric, that's gonna sell like crazy. I don't know what it's gonna be like. I can't even imagine. They've put out a number of concepts over the years for full electric, partial electric, plug-in hybrids. they were all way off the deep end. I'm kind of hoping, I'm going to the International Auto Show this Saturday. I'm kind of hoping maybe there's a concept for one there. I don't know. All right, the point is, Jeep is an American brand. I know we have a lot of overseas viewers. This is, take this how you're going to take this. For me, it's important that Jeep is an American brand. I am a patriotic American. I love knowing that Jeep is an American brand. Jeep is the most American brand in my opinion. I'd love to know what you guys think. I think it's very exciting that Fiat Chrysler is willing to invest back into Detroit, and I think it's really cool that the vehicles they're choosing to invest with are the Jeeps. That says it all. That says it all to me. They know Jeep is an American brand. There's the last thing, and then I'll sign off. I'll let you people go and get on with your day. Last 4th of July, I think it was Forbes magazine, put out a list of the perceived most American brands. What I mean by that is they asked a bunch of people, what brand do you think is the most American brand? Just random people off the street. Number 1, it beat out friggin' Coca-Cola. Jeep. People said Jeep is, when I think America, I think Jeep. Jeep's the most American brand. Coca-Cola beat out Coca-Cola. Oh man, that made my day. All right, Jeep is the most American brand. Stop trying to get at me with that. Don't you know that the Camry is actually more American than the Jeep? Or don't you know your Jeep's actually an Italian vehicle now? Stop with that. Stop with that. All right. Leave me that comment down there in the squawk boxes. Let me know what you think about the new developments in Jeep. Let me know what you think about the new vehicles that we've been promised or teased with. And let me know what you think about my assertion that Jeep is the most American brand. All right, as always, thanks for watching. See you next time.